back to CSFL Preseason Media Days here at sprintfootball.com. And we are now joined by Gio Thomas, head coach of Chestnut Hill College. Coach, thank you very much for joining us. And wanted to ask you, preseason practice, you guys are getting ready for your first game in 2 years. How has preseason camp been? Sometimes, you get to the dog days of preseason practice and you're hitting the same color uniform. You want to see a different jersey, but is it different this year because everybody's amped and excited just because they're back on the field playing and getting ready for the first time in 2 years?
I think at the beginning of camp, there was a lot of excitement because guys were back and finally stepping foot on the field. And like you said, for some of these guys, it's been 2 years. Fortunately for some of our younger guys, they were able to get some time in last year. So it's been a little easier transition for them. So it's kind of almost backwards in a way. You have the young guys that are a little bit more ready to go, and the older guys are showing the rust a little bit. We've had a very physical camp. Since we haven't played in a while, and even the freshmen have only gotten a little bit of time as their senior years in high school or any time at all. So we've had a very physical camp. So I think the old school, hey, the dog days are here. We have, a couple days left in what we would consider camp before we start preparing for our first opponent. So I think, we've had some tensions building. We've had some good spirited practices. But I think the guys are starting to finally hit their stride and get back into, I guess, what you can consider normal. And that's pretty much where we're at.
Looking at the offensive side of the ball, who are some returnees that you have coming back? Maybe there's some newcomers that are factoring into the mix. What are some names, or who are some names that we should be paying attention to this season for the Griffins?
So big thing for us on offense is really it's new across the board. We lost guys like Mike Marino and Damori Hill and Seth Penson and Nick Parcell, some big offensive linemen for us. So we've kind of had to reload and rebuild. I look at our offensive line as a big part of who we're going to be this year. We want to play a physical brand of football. I look at guys like Teddy Tabasco and Matt Weir, Zach Heim, all coming back on the offensive side of the ball, on the offensive line. Hoping to build that with some of the younger guys that we have in. And, where we look at everything right now is it's almost hard to pick names because we have some really great battles going on right now in camp. And really we're having a little inter squad scrimmage on Saturday for us to kind of see who's going to, kind of grab hold of some of these positions. So it's going to be a good mix of some older guys, with some, youth coming in that's really pushing. But at this point, even on the offensive side and the same defensively, it's a lot of neck and neck battles. I'm just excited to see them unfold.
You mentioned a couple of returnees along the offensive line. On either side of the ball, it's so important to have experience up front because it really does begin there.
Yep.
And just talk about in a situation like yours where you haven't played a game in 2 years, but you're returning some experience along the offensive line. How much does that help, settle the skill position players down and just kind of help them grow and learn because they know they've got experience up front blocking for them?
Yeah, a big part of everything that we do, like you said, we build from the lines out on both sides of the ball. But like you said, having those guys there, if we're having a rough practice or things aren't going the way that we would have expected them to go, it's more of a calming presence. And we put a lot on our offensive linemen as we go through and we recruit, we put a high value on the offensive linemen, not just because they're hard to find in this league, obviously with the weight limit, but our expectations is that we're a physical group, and that we control the game. Like I said, we put a lot on them, and having those older guys and those experienced guys on there that have been through the rigorous nature of this league and understand that, just because guys are smaller, that it doesn't mean that they're any less talented or any less, physical. Kind of bring some of those younger guys to the realization that, hey, I can't just, use my quickness against this guy. I have to be physical. My technique has to be right. I have to keep driving my feet, and we have to control this game. And because realistically, your team really centers around your offensive line. You can either run the ball and control the game, or you can't, and you lose track of it.
Looking at the defensive side of the ball, where's the strength of that unit? Is it up front? Is it your linebacking core? Is it the secondary? Or it could be a couple different positions. How will the defense go this year based on, who's coming back or who are some of your top returners?
The defense as a whole is really generally pretty new. And really through camp, what I've seen, and I've said this many times to our team, is that our defensive line has kind of taken charge and been leading the way. They're a young group. They're a physical group. They play with energy, and I think that's what we want. And like I said, they're really kind of leading the way right now, and it's given an opportunity for the linebackers and secondary to kind of learn at a pace that they would like to learn at. And the defensive line, like I said, through camp has been doing a tremendous job, and I think they'll only get better. And like I said, they're young, so this is a group that's only going to get better. You
had mentioned you're young defensively, and including on the defensive line, but you said they're very aggressive. That's something that you can't coach. In a young player, aggressiveness, especially on the defensive line, because it's hit on every play. Just talk about how rare that is, but also at the same time, that bodes well for you guys, because that's a mindset that is just going to be naturally in those players, and that rubs off, I think, maybe on the rest of their defensive teammates. Would that be a correct assumption?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. What we do in our recruiting process is I watch film on every single player we recruit. I talk to the coaches. I talk to people around their program and see what these guys are like. And it's not easy to find guys that, one, fit the size, and two, have the aggression and the ability to do all three. And I think we've done that in recruiting over the past 2 years. But it does set the bar for everybody else. We have had a very physical camp. We go live every day that we've could outside of the first 3 days of heat acclimation. So we go live for a period of practice every single day. And those guys every single day show up, and they're getting their bumps. They're getting their bruises now. They're giving their bumps. They're giving their bruises now. So they're going to be ready once the bullets start flying on game one, to be able to handle that type of atmosphere. And I think, like you said, that sets the tone for the rest of the defense. When the defensive line is, reestablishing the line of scrimmage and going through these, tough physical battles with a veteran offensive line, it's only making them better, and it's also making the offensive line better. So hopefully that will transition into, an experienced offense and defense line when we step on the field, even though they're not really experienced.
And finally, looking at special teams, how's the kicking game looking, punting, return game? Just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we put a major emphasis on our special teams this year. We have 2 young kickers that have been doing a tremendous job. Really happy with both of their performances throughout camp, both kicking and punting. And in the years past, what we've kind of identified here is that, we've been winning football games even when I was here back in 2017, but the special teams wasn't as big of a priority, I think, that it needed to be. So we spent a lot of time and effort making sure that, special teams is a priority. We brought in, like I said, those 2 guys, to compete for the kicking, the battle. I think you're going to see a much improved special teams from us this year. And, no longer is it a thing where guys want to take a break to play special teams. We have guys that are fighting to get on special teams because they want to run down and hit guys. They want to run down and make a difference in the game. And I think that's a really special thing on a team. And that's why they call it special teams, because, it's not easy for guys to run down and tackle somebody on the kickoff 100 miles an hour. And we have some guys on this team that are excited for that. So it makes me excited for the opening kickoff, just to see these guys kind of go down and let loose. Cause right now we're not going live in special teams on kickoff, but I know some of them are borderline live right now in practice because it's hard to hold them back, but they're just excited to go down and hit somebody. And I think that'll be a big change to this team. We can become more of a three-phased football team, where in years past, I think it's been more of a 2 to 2.5. So hopefully it helps us be more well-rounded.
Coach, best of luck this season.
Thanks so much, Doug.